My name is Emma Carter. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my marriage, I believed that being a good wife meant believing your husband even when you had questions you couldn't answer. I believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt. I believed that love meant patience, forgiveness, and standing beside someone when life became difficult. What I didn't understand was that there is a difference between trusting someone and ignoring what they are showing you. My husband, Daniel, had been my best friend before he became my husband. We met at a friend's birthday party when I was 26. He was funny, confident, and somehow made me feel like I had known him for years. We married 2 years later. We bought a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood outside Chicago, and for 6 years I thought we had built something solid. Daniel worked in commercial real estate, and I managed the operations of a small design company. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We traveled when we could, hosted family dinners, and spent most weekends together. Daniel's older brother, Jason, lived about 3 hours away. The brothers weren't especially close, but they spoke regularly. So when Daniel told me one Thursday evening that Jason needed his help with something urgent, I didn't think much of it. We were sitting at the kitchen island when he said, "I need to drive up to Jason's tomorrow morning." I looked up from my laptop. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, he has some issue with his house, something with the bank and some paperwork." "Do you want me to come with you?" "No, it's probably going to be boring. I'll be back tomorrow night." He kissed my forehead and went upstairs. I remember smiling to myself. Nothing about that conversation seemed unusual. The next morning, Daniel left at 7:30. I watched his SUV disappear down the street. Around noon, Jason called me. I answered with a smile. "Hey, Jason." "Hey, Emma, how are you?" "Good, how are you?" There was a pause. "Good, why?" I laughed. "Daniel said he was coming to help you with something." Another pause. This one was longer. "Oh." My smile disappeared. "Oh?" Jason cleared his throat. Yeah, Daniel mentioned something." "Are you guys together now?" "No." He stopped. "Actually, Daniel hasn't come here." I thought I had misheard him. "What?" "He hasn't come to my house." I stared at the kitchen wall. "But he told me he was driving to your place." Jason sounded confused. Maybe he changed plans. "I don't know." "Did he call you?" "Not today." I thanked him and ended the call. My first instinct was to call Daniel. I did. No answer. I sent him a text. "Everything okay?" 10 minutes later, he replied, "Yeah, with Jason now. We'll explain later." I stared at the message. With Jason now. It was a lie. I knew because I had just spoken to Jason, but I still didn't want to believe it. Maybe Jason was covering for him. Maybe they had planned something I wasn't supposed to know about. Maybe there was a surprise. I gave him every possible excuse because the alternative was too painful to consider. That evening, Daniel called around 9. "Hey, babe." His voice sounded completely normal. "How was your day?" I asked. "Long." "How's Jason?" There was a brief silence. "He's okay." "Did the bank issue get resolved?" Another pause. "We're still working on it." I closed my eyes. "Okay." He asked what I had for dinner, and we talked for several minutes. When we hung up, I sat in the living room alone. Something was wrong. The next morning, Daniel came home. He looked tired but relaxed. He dropped his bag near the stairs and kissed me. "Missed you." "Did you?" I asked. He smiled. "Of course." I looked at his suitcase. "How was Jason?" "Fine." "Did the bank issue get fixed?" He nodded. "Mostly." I stared at him. "Daniel." "Yeah?" "Jason told me you never went there." The smile disappeared. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he laughed. "What?" "He said you never went to his house." Daniel shook his head. "Jason is confused." "About what?" "I stopped by his office first. He wasn't home." "Then why did you tell me you were at his house?" "Because I didn't think it mattered." I looked at him. "You told me you were at your brother's house." "Emma, I was trying to help him." "That's not what I asked." His expression changed. "I'm tired. Can we talk about this later?" He walked upstairs. I stood there, watching him go. That was the first time I felt something inside me break. Not because I thought he was cheating. Not yet. It was because he had lied about something so small that there was no reason to lie. And when people lie about small things, you start wondering what they're hiding about the big ones. That afternoon, I checked the location history on our shared family account. Daniel had forgotten that his phone was connected to it. I saw the route. He had driven north, but not toward Jason's home. He had driven almost 2 hours in the opposite direction. The final location was a hotel near Milwaukee. My hands started shaking. I searched the hotel online. It was expensive, elegant, private, the kind of place couples went for romantic weekends. I stared at the screen. Then I noticed something else. Daniel's company card had been used at the hotel's restaurant. I felt sick. I didn't confront him. Instead, I called the hotel pretending I was trying to locate a lost item. The receptionist couldn't give me information, but she confirmed something I already suspected. Daniel had checked in under his own name. The reservation was for 2 adults. 2 adults. I hung up and sat at my desk. I could have screamed. I could have called him. I could have called the woman I imagined was there. But I didn't know who she was. And I didn't know whether I was looking at an affair or something even worse. That night, I searched Daniel's email. I knew his password because he had given it to me years earlier for a family account. I wasn't proud of what I was doing, but I also knew I couldn't keep pretending nothing was happening. I found hotel confirmations, business meetings, restaurant reservations. Then I found one email that changed everything. It was from a woman named Olivia Bennett. The subject line said, "We need to talk before Friday." I opened it. The message was short. "Daniel, I won't keep waiting. You promised this would be over before the end of the month. If she finds out first, everything changes." My heart pounded. She, me. I read it again. Then I noticed an attachment. I opened it. It was a photograph of Daniel standing beside Olivia. They were outside the same hotel. She was beautiful, confident, and maybe in her early 30s. Daniel had his hand on her shoulder. I stared at the image until my eyes hurt. I expected to feel rage. Instead, I felt strangely calm. Because suddenly, everything made sense. The secret phone calls, the unexplained meetings, the nights he came home late, the way he had stopped talking about our future. I thought I had discovered an affair, but then I noticed the date of the photograph. It was from 8 months earlier. That meant this had been happening for a long time. I printed the photograph, then I printed the email. I put both in an envelope and locked them in my desk. I didn't confront Daniel that night. I waited. 3 days later, Olivia emailed him again. "You need to tell her. I'm done being the secret." Daniel replied, "Give me 2 more weeks." I stared at those words. 2 more weeks for what? A divorce? A confession? Something else? I kept searching. Then I found a folder labeled North Star. Inside were financial documents. North Star was a company Daniel had never mentioned to me. There were bank statements, contracts, property documents, and several large transfers. I recognized one name on the documents. Jason, my husband's brother. I called Jason again. "We need to talk." He sounded nervous. "About what?" "North Star." There was silence. "Emma, where did you hear that name?" "From Daniel's files." Jason exhaled. "You shouldn't be looking at those." "Why?" "Because Daniel doesn't want you involved." "What is North Star?" "A business." "Whose business?" He didn't answer. "Jason. Daniel's. And yours?" Silence. "Yes." I felt my stomach tighten. "What did you two do?" "Nothing illegal." "Then why is Daniel hiding it from me?" "Because he knew you'd object." "To what?" Jason hesitated. "To the way the company was funded." "How was it funded?" "With money from your household account." I froze. "How much?" "Emma, I don't know." "How much?" He finally said. "Around $400,000. I nearly dropped the phone. $400,000. Money from our savings. Money I thought we had built together. "Why?" "Daniel said he was investing it." "In what?" "Property." "Then why didn't I know?" Jason's voice became quieter. Because the property wasn't really the point. I stood up. What does that mean? You need to talk to Daniel. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I opened our bank account. Over the previous 18 months, hundreds of thousands of dollars had been transferred in small amounts. 5,000 here, 10,000 there, 20,000. Some transfers were labeled as business expenses, others had no description. I added them up. The total was $427,000. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The affair suddenly seemed almost irrelevant. Daniel wasn't just cheating, he was stealing from our future. But why was Olivia involved? I needed answers. I decided to meet her. I found her workplace online. She was an attorney at a downtown law firm. I sent her one message. My name is Emma Carter. I believe we need to talk about Daniel. She replied less than an hour later. Yes, we do. We met at a coffee shop the next afternoon. When Olivia walked in, she looked nothing like the woman I had imagined. She looked exhausted. She sat across from me and immediately said, I am sorry. I stared at her. Are you having an affair with my husband? She looked down. I was. I felt my jaw tighten. Was. Yes. When did it start? Almost a year ago. How did you meet? Through North Star. I frowned. You're involved with the company? She nodded. I helped structure some of the legal documents. And Daniel, he hired me. Why? Olivia looked directly at me. Because he was trying to hide money. I said nothing. I didn't know it was your money at first, she continued. I thought it was investment capital. When I realized where it came from, I confronted him. And then? That's when our relationship became personal. I stared at her. So you knew he was married? Yes. And you still slept with him? She looked ashamed. Yes. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I simply asked, why are you telling me now? Olivia reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. Because I discovered something Daniel didn't know I had found. She opened it. Inside were copies of financial records. North Star wasn't created to invest in property. It was created to move assets. Whose assets? Yours. I stared at her. Why? Daniel was preparing for a divorce. My heart stopped. He was planning to divorce me? Yes. And take the money? Olivia nodded. Most of it. She slid another document toward me. It was a draft divorce settlement. My name was on it. Daniel's name was on it. There was a proposed division of property. But almost everything valuable had been moved into North Star. He planned to tell you that the company had failed, Olivia said. Then he would claim most of the money was gone. I felt sick. And you? He promised me he'd leave you. Did you believe him? She smiled sadly. At first. What changed? She took a deep breath. I found out he had done this before. I looked at her. What do you mean? There was another woman before you. I stared at her. Who? His first wife. I felt the room disappear around me. Daniel was married before? Yes. He told me he had never been married. Olivia reached into the folder and handed me another document. It was a marriage certificate. Daniel Carter, married to a woman named Rebecca Miller. The marriage had lasted 3 years. When did they divorce? I asked. 8 years ago. I met Daniel 6 months after that. Olivia nodded. Rebecca lost almost everything. I looked at the document again. What happened to her? She believed Daniel's business was failing. She signed documents without reading them carefully. And he took the money? Yes. I felt a coldness move through me. Suddenly, my entire marriage looked different. Daniel wasn't making one terrible mistake. He had a pattern. I asked Olivia, why did you stay with him? Her eyes filled with tears. Because I thought I was different. I almost smiled. So did I. She nodded. I know. We sat in silence. Then Olivia said, there is one more thing. What? Daniel thinks I destroyed the evidence. Did you? She smiled faintly. No. I copied everything. She handed me a flash drive. Your husband has been preparing to take everything from you. Now you have the evidence to stop him." I thanked her and left. I drove home in silence. That night I called a lawyer, not a friend, not my family, a real attorney who specialized in financial fraud and divorce. I showed her everything. She looked through the documents carefully. "Emma, you need to understand something. This is much bigger than an affair." "I know. If these documents are authentic, your husband may have committed serious financial crimes." "What should I do?" "Do not confront him yet." I nodded. "Let him think everything is normal." For the next 2 weeks I became the wife Daniel thought he knew. I cooked dinner. I smiled. I asked about his day. I hugged him before bed. He seemed relieved. One night he came home with flowers. "For you." I smiled. "Thank you. I know I've been distant lately." "You have." He looked at me. "I've just been stressed." "About work?" "Yeah." I kissed his cheek. "I understand." He smiled. He had no idea that I had already copied every document he had tried to hide. I also discovered that he had scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney for the following Friday. He thought he was going to surprise me. Instead, I prepared my own surprise. On Thursday evening, Daniel came home early. He was carrying a bottle of wine. "Can we talk?" I looked up from the kitchen counter. "Sure." He poured 2 glasses. "I've been thinking about us." I nodded. "Okay." "I don't think we're happy anymore." I said nothing. "Maybe we've grown apart." I looked at him. "Maybe." He seemed surprised by my calmness. "I think we should separate." I took a sip of water. "Okay." His eyebrows lifted. "Okay?" "Yes." He had expected tears. He had expected begging. Instead, I sat there calmly. "You don't seem upset." "I'm upset." "Then why aren't you crying?" I looked directly at him. "Because I already know." He froze. "Know what?" "Everything." His face went pale. I stood up and placed a folder on the table. "Olivia gave me the documents." He stared at the folder. "What documents?" "North Star. The transfers, the divorce plan, Rebecca." His mouth opened slightly. "How do you know about Rebecca?" That was my favorite part. He sat down. "Emma, please." "Please what?" "Let me explain." "Go ahead." He rubbed his forehead. "Rebecca was different." "That's what you told her too?" He looked away. "I made mistakes." "No, you made a system." I opened the folder. "You married women, gained their trust, moved money, and then convinced them that their marriage was failing because of them." "That's not true." "Then tell me why you created North Star." He said nothing. "Tell me why you transferred $427,000 from our accounts." Silence. "Tell me why you prepared a divorce settlement without telling me." He looked at me. "Because I knew you wouldn't understand." I laughed. "You stole our money, Daniel." "I invested it." "Without my permission." "I was trying to protect our future." "Your future." He stood up. "You have no idea what I've sacrificed. And you have no idea what I've discovered." I pulled out my phone. "Your attorney is waiting for you tomorrow." His face changed. "How do you know?" "Because I spoke to her." He stared at me. "You contacted my lawyer?" "No, I hired my own." He took a step backward. "Emma, don't." I held up my hand. "I loved you. I defended you. I trusted you. But I won't let you destroy me." He started crying, real tears. For the first time I saw fear in his eyes. "I can fix this." "No. Please. You had years to fix it. What do you want?" I looked at him. "The truth." He sat down. For nearly 2 hours he told me everything. He admitted he had hidden money. He admitted North Star had been created to move assets. He admitted he had been planning the divorce. He admitted his relationship with Olivia. He also admitted that he had lied about visiting Jason because he didn't want me to know where he had really been. But then he told me something I didn't expect. Olivia wasn't the only woman. I stared at him. "What?" "There was someone else." My stomach turned. "Who?" "A woman named Rachel." "When?" "Before Olivia." "How many?" He looked down. 3. I closed my eyes. 3 women. 3 lies. 3 separate versions of a man I never truly knew. I asked him one final question. Did you ever love me? He looked at me for a long time. Yes. I shook my head. Then you have a strange way of showing it. The divorce took nearly a year. Because of the financial evidence, the case became complicated. Some assets were frozen. Investigators examined North Star's accounts. Daniel was eventually required to repay a significant amount of the money. His business suffered. His reputation collapsed. And the woman he had planned to leave me for refused to have anything more to do with him. Olivia eventually testified about the financial scheme. Rebecca also came forward. For the first time, 3 women who had been deceived by the same man sat in the same room. We had never met before. But when I looked at them, I didn't feel jealousy. I felt something else. Recognition. We had all believed the same lie. We had all blamed ourselves, and we had all been wrong. Months after my divorce was finalized, I moved into a smaller house near the lake. It wasn't the house I had shared with Daniel, but it felt more like home than that place ever had. I painted the walls, I bought new furniture, I planted flowers in the backyard. I started traveling again. I learned how to enjoy my own company. One afternoon, I received a letter from Daniel. I almost threw it away. Instead, I opened it. He wrote that he was sorry. He said losing me had made him realize what he had destroyed. He said he hoped one day I could forgive him. I read the letter twice, then I placed it in a drawer. I didn't forgive him that day. Maybe I never will. But I no longer needed his apology, because I had something better. Freedom. A few months later, I ran into Jason at a grocery store. He apologized for not telling me the truth sooner. I asked him why he had stayed silent. He said he had been afraid of losing his brother. I told him, sometimes protecting someone from the consequences of their choices only makes the consequences worse. He nodded. We said goodbye. I never saw him again. Looking back, I realized the moment everything changed wasn't when I discovered Olivia. It wasn't when I found North Star. It wasn't even when I learned about Rebecca. The moment everything changed was when I stopped asking myself, how can I save my marriage? And started asking, how can I save myself? For years, I thought strength meant staying. I thought strength meant forgiving. I thought strength meant fighting for love no matter what. Now I understand that sometimes strength means walking away. Sometimes it means accepting that the person you loved doesn't exist anymore, or perhaps never existed in the way you believed. Daniel thought he was going to surprise me with a divorce. He thought he had moved the money. He thought he had prepared everything. He thought I would cry, beg, and ask him to stay. Instead, I sat across from him with a folder full of evidence and calmly said, I already know. The look on his face was something I will never forget, not because I enjoyed seeing him afraid, but because for the first time he understood that he could no longer control the story. He had spent years creating lies. He thought he was the author of my future, but he wasn't. I was, and I chose a different ending. I chose myself. I chose peace. I chose a life where I never again had to question whether the person sleeping beside me was telling me the truth. Today, when someone asks me what happened to my marriage, I don't say my husband cheated. I say I discovered who my husband really was, and I decided that person wasn't someone I wanted in my future. There is a difference. Betrayal can destroy you if you let it define you, but it can also wake you up. It can show you what you tolerated, what you ignored, and what you deserve instead. I used to think the worst thing my husband could do was fall in love with another woman. I was wrong. The worst thing he did was make me question my own judgment. He made me believe that I was paranoid when my instincts were right. He made me doubt myself so he could continue lying, and that was the part I refused to carry with me. So I let him go. Not because he deserved forgiveness, not because I stopped caring overnight. I let him go because I deserved a life that wasn't built around someone else's deception. And that, more than any revenge I could have taken, became my victory. Daniel thought he was leaving me for another woman. He thought I would be the one left heartbroken. But in the end, he was the one standing alone, surrounded by the consequences of every lie he had told. And I walked away with something he could never take from me again: my trust in myself.